Hey, are you familiar with what's called a remittance payment? Did you know that we can address our own debts correctly in commerce, and by doing so, we actually address the United States national debt as well? This is done through what's called remittance payments. Did you know that all debts are actually the responsibility of the United States and therefore the Treasury? So, yeah, we are actually interacting in commerce as sole proprietorships and corporations, right? And so that corporation typically has been tendered to us by the United States government, right? And so we think we're just interacting as our own, like, flesh and blood, but it's actually this piece of paper called the birth certificate. That's backing all of our conduct in commerce. Did you know that? We're contracting on behalf of this birth certificate thing, which is actually the property of the United States government. And it's actually just the United States Treasury. So we're just walking around on behalf of the United States Treasury performing, and that's called agency. And so we're the agent for the principal. The principal would be the thing that holds all liability. And so this principal, the U.S. Treasury, right, has the liability. We are behaving as an agent on behalf of that entity, and we're just going around and paying all these things when really it's the liability of the birth certificate. So we are stepping in as what's called a surety, and we're paying all of these things, debts, on behalf of the United States Treasury. So what we can actually do is go for our lawful rights of subrogation and say, hey, you know what? All this time I've actually been paying debts that are actually your debts, Treasury, and I'd like to be reimbursed. And that's called recoupment. Anyhow, what we can do going forward as we try to get proper performance, proper fiduciary performance through to getting that recoupment, we can actually go and do what's called remittance. This would be like when I'm presented an instrument or some kind of bill or a presentment, I can then take that and then present it to the U.S. Treasury and be like, look, hey, you got a bill here. And they'll be like, well, it's, oh, it sounds great. Sometimes there's pushback, right? Especially when you try to tender that coupon payment back to the entity that sent it to you. So, like, I'll just use a credit card company, for example. They send me a bill, paper bill, and then I take it and I create a negotiable instrument out of it and essentially turn it into a draft or a check, right? Or a bill of exchange, okay? And so now I'm tendering payment because we can't actually pay debts, so we have to discharge debts, and that's all we can do in this economy anymore because we can't use gold or silver, which are the only two ways to actually pay a debt according to the United States Constitution. So the only way we can actually ever pay a debt is by having the U.S. Treasury offset those debts by using U.S. coinage, the coins, gold and silver coins, U.S. coins. That's the only way to pay a debt, to have the Treasury pay it off. And when we actually pay the debt, it's actually removed from the ledger, and that's why when we tender our remittance payments through the United States Treasury, we take care and offset and remove and cancel out our own debt, which actually affects the national debt. So when we do this correctly and we all do it at the same time, the national debt will go down, and we don't have to deal with institutionalized corruption and a culture of let's just raise the debt ceiling. Let's just raise the debt ceiling. Let's just live in debt. Let's just have all these other sanctions because we have this rampant debt and we need to do something about it because it's an emergency, and oh my gosh, what are we going to do because we have all this debt, and really what could we possibly do? Oh, we have an educated population that's doing what they're supposed to be doing in commerce, and now we can't use like fake emergency in order to instate things that are best serving to our own sort of ruling class. And now we have, oh no, God forbid, we have an educated community of people who want freedom and justice and liberty and the pursuit of happiness for everybody, right? God forbid we have equity, right? And we say, anyway, so what we can do is use remittance payment to tender discharge of debts that we are presented, instead of taking a debt instrument and using a debt instrument, which would be a Federal Reserve note, because we don't have dollars. We have these Federal Reserve notes, floating reserve notes, which is just debt, more debt. So if somebody gives me a $100 debt, and then I pay it with a $100 Federal Reserve note, well, I just doubled the debt. And who hurts the most? It all comes back to the United States national debt. So we're actually destroying our country by operating in ignorance in commerce, and we have everything available to us to not do that. But we're so distracted that we don't operate in commerce correctly, and ultimately God's country then is being swept away by the enemy, and that's being done by design. And so we can directly address this by recoupment and remittance right now. And then what we can do is come together and create a credit union for the people by the people that behaves in honor. And we can then also create a credit card company that's transparent and honest and shows and teaches people how to do a remittance payment with every single statement. Imagine that. Imagine I get a bill from my credit card company and it says, hey, but here's what's up. You can do this, and this, and you write it on this very piece of paper and you send it to this address, and then boom, your debt's taken care of, and the United States Treasury takes care of its debts as well. And guess what? This is all possible because it is real and true that the Messiah, Yahushua HaMashiach, did indeed pay all debts. All sins are forgiven. All debts have been forgiven. And so he steps in as surety as opposed to us stepping in as surety. And we have all of our debts discharged. And things can be righteous once again. This could possibly be revelation. Thank you so much.